So it's come to my attention in the world of Hollywood and comic book media that everybody's now realizing that Zack Snyder, director of such films as Watchmen, 300, um, Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman, and the recent Justice League, was fired from the most recent movie, Justice League. Um, and the other thing I have to say to that is, are we really surprised? Um, I remember when the announcement was made earlier last year, before the movie came out, that the announcement was that Zack Snyder was going to walk away from the movie because he had a family issue. I believe his daughter had passed away due to suicide, and as a parent, I could totally realize that effect, and can sympathize with them. But at the same time, it just didn't come out um, quite right, and it didn't seem quite kosher to me. And I remember talking to a few of my colleagues at work that something didn't sound right, um, because the way the announcement came out, and what I mean by that is typically. In the world of media, when something like that tragically happens, you hear about the death first, then you hear the repercussions of the death that, the person is traumatized, and then they're going to step away from work. And a lot of times, if the studio is backing the director, they'll shut down production for a couple of weeks for the person to, you know, grieve and recuperate and then get back to work. Case in point, with the whole Fast and Furious death with Paul Walker. Granted, not the same effect, but kind of close. And there's other issues where things come up. Production stops. Well, in this case, production didn't stop; it continued on, and that kind of told me that Warner Brothers was moving on, despite this tragedy. And that told me that they had really no faith in Zack Snyder. And at the same time, I could have sworn I read that um, the tragedy happened weeks before the announcement came. So, the timing just did not fit. Um, and added to the fact that usually since most of the filming was done, and if you needed somebody to step in and do reshoots or whatever, you usually grab somebody you haven't really heard of before, or a low level second unit director or assistant director or whatever to finish the job up. This announcement came that hey, he was no longer doing it, and immediately you heard Joss Whedon, who, if you didn't know, directed uh, the first two Avengers movies, was taking his place. So not only was he gone, but they're replacing him with another big name director to take this place, and that really just did not sit well for me. So in my opinion, I think it was already a Hollywood known thing that he was fired, and that they were just trying to I won't want to use the word cover up, but just kind of give him an out, saying hey, he wasn't fired, he left voluntarily. Um, I'll say in my current uh, job, we call that spending more time with family. There's a joke at my work where every time you saw an email that somebody has opted to leave and spend more time with their family, it was pretty much saying that they were being fired. So I think this was exactly the case here, and it is what it is. Um, I hope I think this is a bigger issue with Warner Brothers than it was Zack Snyder. Um, I think Warner Brothers really needs to get their act together and come up with a solid game plan, like the folks over at Marvel. And this is even before Disney kind of took over, but kind of made things a little bit more solid once they did. Just have a solid game plan of what they want to do. I think Warner Brothers has been haphazardly just kind of throwing at whatever at the wall and seeing what sticks without an overall game plan. Um, you we see this with Marvel now. They announced their Phase 1 set of movies, years ago, and they said, okay, now phase two is going to be these movies. And they've already announced that phase three are going to be these movies. They already have a plan in place. Um, and they have from my understanding, a giant wall, and how all these things interconnect and cooperate with each other. So there is an overall plan. Warner Brothers, if you haven't done it already, sit down, step back, and do the same thing. You have the rights to all the other DC property, not like Marvel, where they've had to go around and work deals with Sony and buy parts of Fox and kind of you know bring everything together, and leave things out and kind of do shenanigans against behind the scenes. And that'll be for another video. Warner Brothers, you already have the properties to everything. Uh, Sit down and come up with a game plan. If it takes a year or 2 years, if it requires you to recast a Batman or a Superman, maybe not the Wonder Woman, because I mean Gal Gadot, she's can live forever and look the same. So just take some time, sit down, and come up with a plan that you want to move forward. Um, I wasn't a huge fan of the past few DC movies. Wonder Woman I thought was pretty good. It was a good, solid movie. But I mean, when you look at Justice League, you see some serious flaws. When you looked at Batman versus Superman, that was just a 3 hour mess. Man of Steel, I was okay with it, but even then, it had some issues. Um, you guys have one of the best properties out there. You have Superman, you have Batman, you have Wonder Woman, you have Green Lantern. I mean, and to even prove my point, look at your TV shows. They're a lot better. Look at your animation studios. Those stories are a lot better. You guys are doing it right on some degrees, but you're not doing it right on the larger scale. And I think you have the ability to do so. So anyway, that's been my 2 cents as far as the world of Warner Brothers, DC, and Zack Snyder. I think that's all I'm going to say for now. Anyway, if you like what I had to say, hit the like and subscribe button. If you'd like to hear more, hit the like and subscribe button. I'm out of here. Peace.